right, y'all, let me know if you can't hear me. But I will not go through a whole lot of slides, but I was asked to talk about how we are working to manage cyber risk to the critical infrastructure that we own and operate at Exelon. And so I selected a few high-level areas that I think really represent the comprehensive approach that we're working and taking. And so I'll go through some of that now. So let's see, hopefully you can see that. But really the approach that we're taking is really a combination of management, governance, risk management, implementation of controls, and then monitoring and continuous improvement. And that's what I'll walk through today. We feel it's particularly important for anything we do in managing cyber risk to be business focused, really business focused. When we think about our mission, and I'll read it out here, it's to be the leading diversified energy company by providing reliable, clean, affordable, and innovative energy products. How do we accomplish that? We leverage information systems, we leverage telecommunications, we leverage industrial control systems. And so cybersecurity for us is really key and critical to being able to accomplish our mission. And within IT, we have several strategic imperatives, and security is really one of those imperatives. And in particular, we have key initiatives. And so what that means for us, and I'll talk through some of what we do as it relates to governance, what that means for us, though, is that there's visibility on any key initiative. There's metrics on that's reported out in executive briefings, that's reported out to the board. And so really taking a business-focused approach is particularly important. So you'll see I noted here governance in the next point here. From a governance perspective, that is really what is a key part in driving how we're able to really have that business focused and have that really materialize at the operational level. We have several governance bodies, both internal to our IT and security organization, but also across Exelon, where we address things related to security, but also when something related to the business is addressed, the question is, what are we doing for security? Have you talked with security? And that belt and suspenders approach, I think, really makes a difference. We use those governance bodies to manage cyber risk, security operations, and our compliance risk as well. We can't forget about that. In particular, we're concerned, as I mentioned before, about meeting our mission. But to do that, we're concerned about operational risk. We're concerned about our financial risk. We're concerned about our compliance risk and reputational risk. All of that is considered in the decisions that we make. Another thing that we have related to this governance and kind of starting to drive into this enterprise risk management is visibility and support from the senior executive level. So my boss, the chief security officer, reports out to the board on this. He briefs the board on a regular basis. The discussions come up regularly when there are events that may not necessarily be events to our organization, but events that you hear about and read about in the news. We regularly have to do analysis and see, okay, so if that had happened to us, something similar, how would we be prepared? How would we have reacted? Are there anything that we need to do to be able to be in a better position should that happen to us? Another thing, I talked about reporting on metrics and key performance indicators to our senior leadership, but by integrating security processes into our key business functions, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, it's really helped us better understand the business. So those of us who are working in IT and security operations, it's no secret that there's generally a disconnect, in some places a great divide between the business side and the IT and the operational side. And so we really, just from a governance, risk management perspective, really tried to address that and close that gap. And so, for example, as part of my team, we actually co-locate some of our team members with the different business units across the country so that we can have that better understanding and really start to be embedded in there. In our organization, we have security architects that actually sit with the business folks. So when these discussions are having about, hey, we want to go do this, get this product, or we want to take on this project, they're right there to be able to jump in early in the life cycle to consider and help to address security considerations. So while this does help us be better integrated, on the other side, it means we're audited all the time, because when these business units or these other projects that may not be security projects have an internal audit or some other type of audit, then security gets brought in because we're integrated with them. So it's another way for another check to make sure that we're operating as we should be. So the next one here I have is intelligence-driven. And, this is something that we really drive hard to be, is to understand our threat landscape. By the way, our understanding of the business feeds into that as well. And, that's from a cyber perspective, a physical security perspective, from an insider threat perspective, and then from a combined threat perspective. And then really based on the context of our organization, understand, so what does that mean to us? And based on that, then say, okay, so now what are we doing about it? How is this? And that's an imperative for us, is to really feed our understanding of, from an intelligence side, feed that into our security operations and how we manage our environments. So I go on to the operation side. Again, we really work to have a business-focused, intelligence-driven security operations group. And with that, we focus on methods, and so it's not just technology, but also processes, policies, and procedures to help us protect our environment, detect when something goes wrong or something anomalous happens, and then to be able to respond and recover. And for those of you who are familiar with the framework that Adam talked about earlier, this aligns very well with the framework process. So, Exelon is a large energy company, and with several utilities. And so, the approach that we've taken is really to take an enterprise approach. From, to the degree where you can do things enterprise approach, but certainly from a consistency's sake for policies and procedures. And that really has helped us to be able to better manage those risks. We have different teams that may work on different functions, but we do work to integrate with each other. Within my team, we have a manager for cybersecurity, a manager for physical security, and then a manager for IACS SCADA security. And it's nice us being in one team because we really do work across. But then we also work with the security architects or the others across the company to really take an integrated approach. And we have some rather healthy challenge sessions to eventually get to the optimal solution. And then, we take what we learn and make sure we are using those best in practice tools, those best in practice processes and technologies. And again, we always challenge and question and make sure we don't just want the nice, shiny new thing. Is this really meeting a business need? Is this really meeting an identified risk? So the last area I'll highlight is measuring and continuously improving. And this one's particularly important. Leaving the government world. In the government world, it's really easy to say, hey, you have to have these measures. How are you measuring performance? And, how are you responding? Now that I'm on the other side of the fence, developing good measures is a fun activity, right? And then making sure it's something that you can actually measure and that it's meaningful. But we do have these key performance indicators that get a lot of visibility. But it's good for driving accountability and making sure we get things done. I indicated already, the internal audits that we undergo, but also the external audits, whether it's on the nuclear side, for the bulk electric system, for Sarbanes-Oxley compliance, or multiple audits that, again, give us an opportunity to evaluate where we are, and then identifies opportunities to strengthen if needed. But internally, sometimes you just find things on your own. And so, one of I think a really useful continuous improvement is our process for root cause investigations and corrective actions. And that's something, again, getting back to the governance discussion we had before. It gets visibility and then it's tracked. So, okay, you found your root cause, now what are you doing to address it? And so that accountability really does make a difference, along with, incorporating lessons learned into processes as those come up. So these are just some few points at a high level, but some things that really take a lot of work in practice to address managing cybersecurity risk for critical infrastructure. There are some things, the reality, some of the questions that were asked earlier is that this is a change. And so there's some behavioral influences that we recognize as well and are working, one, recognize this is a cultural change, particularly in the operations space, and then take steps to help manage that cultural change. And so, the safety culture is one that's strong in our organization and one where we're trying to say, okay, how can we mimic that? Every meeting, and those of you who work in similar environments, whenever you have a meeting, you have a safety message. So now we're trying to incorporate a security message. Making it easier to help address the people challenge. When in email, we know that email is a common vector. When an email comes in from the outside, highlighting, color coding certain portions of it, so it's coming from the outside. So if someone's trying to mimic the inside, or if you see it's red or green, whatever the color is, then hey, let me think before I click. So really trying to work some of these behavioral things in as well. So, in summary, I'll just say, we're well aligned with the cybersecurity framework, and I'm proud of that because that's near and dear to me. Had a little bit to do with that, working with Adam. But it's really beyond just implementing technical controls. And I'd argue technical controls is a piece of the pie, but it's not the big hunking chunk. You really need to have the people and the processes right along with the technology for it to work as intended. Our governance and risk management activities really underpin the business-focused approach and are really key. And while we do have compliance requirements that we take very seriously, we are focused on security and compliance and really have several initiatives to work the right balance of the two. So thank you. With that, I think I'm in time on my remarks, and I look forward to questions later. Thank you.